All
Oh,
right,
okay.
we are starting with Evil Dead 2, which is the greatest movie ever made. Fuck you, Noah.
Yeah, why you gotta be a
Sure.
hater?
I'm not a hater. I love this movie.
Name one movie that is better than this. You can't. I'm not hearing any.
Well,
This proves my point.
okay.
Uh,
Good debate.
This is scientifically proven. Rosebud.
but it is kind of annoying that like streaming services don't get the like best available version of a film.
Oh, for sure, it's another. So you gotta go.
And then
Physical
Robert's
media.
collection is from like 2002.
That's true. That's not true. Blu-ray didn't exist yet.
Robert,
So,
I'm kind of shocked you don't just have like an HD DVD.
I should. Yeah, I've never owned a single HD
I
DVD.
didn't either.
I kind of want to collect some just for novelty's sake.
Oh man, that red on the 4K just pops. No, it's
Nice.
funny because I had a 360 like at the time that those were coming out, but I don't know if you guys remember this. The 360 required a separate player for those, so it's like, nah, I'll stick to DVD.
That's really annoying.
Yeah, I didn't even start collecting Blu-ray until like 2011. So like that battle was well over with. Like Blu-ray was the only game in town by that point.
Yeah, well, and I didn't buy Blu-ray because I didn't have a PS3. The first Blu-ray I buy, though, I remember is Inception.
Oh, cool.
But no, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get some HD DVDs. Like they could look cooler. But then I read that you had to have a separate attachment to play them, and I was like,
Too much work.
what's
Play
money?
the movie. Yeah, that too.
But no, that is something that significantly threw Xbox for a loop because they were still on DVD. So you'd have games that are on PlayStation that were just one disc because of Blu-ray that had to be like 3 to 4 discs on Xbox because they were still DVDs. Meanwhile, at the Evil Dead 1 recap that doesn't line up at all.
So this is a soft reboot, right?
I guess you could call it that now.
The original, is this the original requel?
This is the original requel, if you want to call it that.
No. Because I think,
okay.
What year is this? Like 87?
87.
Okay, because the Godzilla 85 predates this.
Yeah, but none of those are remakes.
Well,
those are more just sequel.
Yeah, but you said requel, so I missed
remake sequel.
Your question. What's another one?
Well, because like people always say, Halloween 2018 is a remake, is just a remake posing as a sequel.
Well, okay, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but that's a different thing.
The reason I bring that up is because this movie basically recaps or remakes the first movie within the first 5 minutes of this movie. So
my favorite part of that, though, is Noah, is that this is not how Ash acts at all in the first movie.
No, but it's more in line with how he acts in this movie and then Army of Darkness.
No, they kind of settled on who Ash is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think like the fan reputation over the years was just, oh well, this is kind of a remake of the first one. That's always how I heard it described. Because this is the first Evil Dead movie I ever see, and I'm like, oh, why am I starting with Evil Dead 2? My friend's like, nah, it's like a remake of the first one. You don't have to watch that to get this one. I never heard this opening referred to as a recap until I started watching behind-the-scenes stuff and hearing Bruce Campbell talk about it. Because I feel like the general consensus among fans is like, well, this is kind of a remake of the first movie. I only ever hear the people who make this refer to it as a recap, I guess just because it's like 20 minutes and that's kind of a long recap. You think they would have made it more of a montage or something.
Which is funny because it already is kind of a montage.
Yeah, it's like this weird middle ground where it's kind of speeding through it, but also taking its time. Again, the reason why they did this was because I think it was like I don't remember if it was New Line Cinema or whoever had the rights or access to the first movie and didn't let them use any footage, because that's how this was going to be originally. Was it was just going to use flashback footage from the first movie and then be a sequel, and then they weren't allowed access to that, which is not the last time that would happen with this franchise. So they just reshoot everything.
We love to see it, folks. Yeah, and I mean, I'm more inclined to go with what the people who made it say it is versus what the fans say it is. I mean, it's both. It's a remake and a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the overall franchise, it gets into a little bit of a tricky territory when you get to Ash vs. Evil Dead, because that movie counts the first one as canon and this movie.
Yep.
So, because you meet Ash's sister later in that show.
That's fine though, because you just say you just say that the first 20 minutes of this didn't happen.
Yeah, well, and that's what Bruce Campbell says. There's a video of him taking, like, if you really wanted to stitch this with the first one, I'm sure fans have done this. It's like just cut off like the first 15 minutes, cut straight to Ash getting thrown through the woods, and just splice it with the end of the first one, and it would flow a bit more seamlessly.
Oh,
and I'm sure people have done that in fan edits.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right, Electra. Yeah, Evil Dead is in fact 1,000 years old because nobody noticed.
That's true. And also, you'd have to like cut out part of the end of this movie to make it make sense with Army of Darkness. So
that's where it's trickier. Is I don't know if you can edit from Army from Evil Dead 2 to Army because it's such a drastic different status quo. Whereas there is a shot here that picks up right where the original left off.
Yeah, no, I'd like to attempt it. It would also just be amusing to edit these three films into one.
Unless you cut it off
like 15 years.
Unless you cut it off to where he's sucked back in time, and then you can just cut straight back to Army of Darkness.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yep, and here's the shot.
Which immediately lets you know what kind of movie this is.
Look at how wacky this is. So I mean, I've always preferred this movie over the first one just because of the more of the focus on humor. But it's got a good blend of it as opposed to Army of Darkness, which is a comedy first.
Yeah, at this point I would rank it 2, 1, and then 3, even though 3 has my favorite Ash. 1 is kind of a novelty for me. Like it's a really cool made film, but I don't latch on to any of the characters.
Yeah.
Although it does have the best line delivery from Bruce Campbell. You bastards! Why are you torturing me like this?
Why?
The Deadites also look 100 times better.
Yeah, they got more of a budget.
They do.
For the makeup.
Do you like that matte painting of the sun?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And the funny thing about this recap too is originally it was supposed to be a lot longer.
Oh Jesus!
They cut. Yeah, there's a lot, and most of this footage only exists through like shitty B-roll or like weird TV edits. Like these have never been like officially released. But I know there was a lot more shot of Ash possessed. There's a part of him walking through the woods where he eats a squirrel, and he's got a fake squirrel in his mouth. But also, the more important thing in the opening is they also reshot the end of the first one where he burns the book, which is why it disappears from the rest of this movie. A thing I never noticed until very recently.
I've never picked up on that at all.
So I love this panning shot, and I kind of love it for a weird reason because I've shown this movie to a lot of people, and they can't handle this scene because like just nothing's happening, but the camera's panning.
It's suspense.
Spooky.
No, this is legitimately one of those suspenseful shots in movies. But it's just the camera spinning around.
The other tricky thing about editing this and the first one together is coming up because it's not just as simple as you take the ending of the first one and then start it when he's getting like pushed back in this one because he goes to the bridge again in this
Yeah.
movie. So you'd have to cut one of those scenes out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of moments like that throughout the film that are redoing moments from the first one, which is why I still kind of see the whole thing. I've always seen this as more of a remake than a sequel. Like that's just my opinion, but
But no,
there are a lot of callbacks to the first one throughout it.
When I
No,
often just
can-
watch this movie without watching the first one again.
but I
because-
propose to
yeah.
you, leave those in and make it seem like Ash just has brain damage. He just keeps doing the same thing over and over again.
He hit his head on that tree pretty hard. That's true.
He forgot he went to the bridge, so he has to go back. The Delta.
We love
Although-
that car.
But there is one deleted scene, I think, around this moment that I really wish was kept in, where he's driving the car, he's cleaning himself up. There's another bit they shot where he has a box of cereal and just like dumps it in his mouth, and he starts choking on something, and it's a toy that was in the cereal box.
That's pretty
So it's
funny.
just more Bruce Campbell suffering on camera. I'm like, oh, that's a great bit. I wish that stayed in.
This is the greatest no on the screen.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it's that or Loomis.
Strapped
Which
to
one
the
do you
matte
guys
painting.
prefer?
Which matte painting?
No, which one do
I
you
like that
prefer,
one.
this or Loomis? For no.
I mean, they're both great in their own way.
And what I love about this scene is this is just a clear example of Raimi doesn't give a fuck. Day lasted like 6 seconds.
Oh, the evil is
Yeah, the
manipulating
evil.
Earth.
The evil.
Evil.
The evil made it dark.
The dead, the Deadites.
That's why we needed an Evil Dead Halloween crossover just for an Ash and Loomis team up. That's what we missed.
No, even better is if you play as Ash in the Halloween map, you get to fight Loomis.
That's true. That's awesome. I love this sequence. This is like, oh shit.
No, and what's really cool is this still, even though this is much more of a studio picture, it still has that feeling of some friends fucking around in the woods with a camera. But it also gave us my favorite horror protagonist.
I love how in any other movie that would be a death scene, but now he's fine.
He'll take worse hits in this movie.
We're doing a lot more with the POV shots in this movie too,
Oh, yeah.
which all culminates into this scene coming up.
Yeah, this is one of the
This
greatest
one is insane.
one-takes ever.
It's hilarious.
It's hard not to just watch this movie.
I know.
It's like, guys, shut up. I'm trying to watch Evil Dead
Guys,
2.
it's Evil Dead 2.
Like, okay, here in a second. Where does he go?
Yeah, he's hiding in the cellar, but like
Yeah.
he went down there at super speed.
He turned into the
He missed the part
Phantasm
where he got
from
that
Mask
power
of the Phantasm.
He did.
So as a kid, I had the Evil Dead Regeneration game, which I want to play on the channel soon just to show Robert that. Because Ted Raimi plays a little deadite midget that you can use to solve puzzles. But in that, you have to stop a bunch of the eye creatures from the end of this that ashed up peepers. So as a kid, kind of trying to force this game into canon, even though it's not, I always imagine that the force chasing him is the peepers creatures, which makes no sense, but it's a really funny image.
There he is.
That footage of him peeking out is like reversed.
And I watched the commentary for this, but it's been so long. If I remember correctly, this is like in the summer down in Carolina, one of the Carolinas or something. So it was miserable.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They had to keep like the fake hand that we'll see later in the refrigerator, so it wouldn't melt.
Every movie was a miserable experience to shoot.
I assume the first was the most miserable, just because that's the one I've heard the most stories about.
I
It
think
might
Bruce
have
Campbell
been.
has said that the second one was everything that he's done afterwards. It seemed easy compared to that first movie.
Uh, you might be getting a couple mixed up because I've heard him talk about that about Army of Darkness. Because Army of Darkness, which you'd think, well, that's more of a studio movie that had the biggest budget of the three. That was probably an easier shoot. No, it was a much longer shoot, and in the middle of summer in California. Like, no, he's talking about how miserable that is, and he had to do double duty as himself and as Evil Ash. Like that.
Maybe
That was a difficult,
some of
miserable experience.
some of this is taken from his biography, but it's been a couple of years
Sure.
at this point. But I do know, I'm pretty sure he still says that the first movie was like the toughest shoot because they nearly killed themselves.
Yeah, well, he also like broke his ankle.
He had multiple injuries, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it kind of ended most of their careers. I haven't seen those other actors and actresses in much.
That's true. Except for whatever Sam Raimi puts them in when he has cameos for them. And this movie is like the greatest star-making performance you've ever seen that didn't turn somebody into a major movie star.
Yeah,
Why was he doomed to be a B-movie actor?
Red Letter Media mentions this in Army of Darkness is like he's kind of the perfect Hollywood like A-lister. And I don't know if it's that he didn't get the scripts or he just didn't want to do that. Because he
tried.
And admittedly, a lot of this that I've read is him talking retroactively as he's gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's kind of settled into that B-movie genre. I mean, I guess at the very least, it's nice he doesn't have regrets.
Yeah, for sure. And he also talks a lot about how, like, Burn Notice is, like, the most technically successful thing he's ever done. You know, it was a hit show. He was a character on it.
Oh, yeah.
7 seasons. It was a hit. It got good ratings. No one gives a shit or asks him about it ever. People won't shut up to him about Evil Dead 2. He's talked about this. Or he's like, Burn Notice, the most successful thing I did ever did. Nobody gives shit.
The only people that give a shit is your parents or your grandparents.
I do want to watch Burn Notice. I'm too curious.
I should check it out at some point.
And he's got a new show on Peacock.
That's right. I saw a poster for that.
I gotta watch that.
I'm kind of nervous because I know in the credits it's like and Bruce Campbell, where I'm like, oh fuck, is he in like 2 episodes? So I'm a little bit nervous about that.
That's like
center on the poster though. So I don't
that's
know.
like there's this movie. It's one of those like early slashers, but it's in a grocery store, and like on the poster is Bruce Campbell in. I forget the name of the movie now. He's in it for 2 minutes.
No,
yeah,
no.
I've heard about that.
Here's one of the most charming effects in the movie. It hasn't aged particularly well, but it's fine.
Old stop motion. No, I always forget that Bruce Campbell's also in Burn Notice, so I'm like, oh, okay,
he got his own TV movie.
My parents have seen Bruce Campbell in one thing, I know.
Have either of you seen Bubba Hotep yet?
That one
I still haven't. I still gotta, yeah.
No, we gotta find time to show you that. Both of you.
Like I was talking about a minute ago, though, Evil Dead is this weird franchise that's like always failing upwards. Like all these, as far as the original trilogy goes, they all, well, maybe not the first one, but 2 and 3 kind of flop. And then the show comes out and is popular, but doesn't get very good ratings, and eventually canceled after 3 seasons, and then gets like a bit of a following, like through Netflix and other things. And then, we saw what happened with the game. It's just this weird middle ground of a franchise that's like kind of a successful and profitable-ish.
Wow, I didn't realize how little the 2 made at the box office.
It did not do well.
That's insane.
I think it's a clear example of a franchise that has always had a strong cult following.
Yeah.
Where it's not too obscure, but like it's really popular, but not, an A-list franchise.
Yeah, it's like just over that cult status, but like just by a little bit.
Only by a little. It's like comfortably in the
I
middle section.
I legitimately wonder how a movie like this would do in today's horror era, where everything is so self-serious and about trauma or guilt.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of
And here's
horror.
a goofy movie about a guy whose like, girlfriend's
Hey,
decapitated
Work
head.
shed.
Work shed.
Work shed.
I clapped
that
when you
seems
said
incredible.
work shed.
No,
Have you
this
guys
is
heard
some
about
of,
Bruce Campbell talk about Kurt Russell? I think it's Kurt Russell.
No.
it doesn't sound familiar.
When they first met, apparently,
Oh, I
was
have
it
heard
Wyatt
this.
Russell? Is a big fan of. I think it's this movie. So
Mhm.
Kurt goes to him and says, "Say work shed."
Did he even remember like why work shed or
Who,
is he like,
Bruce?
why do you
just
want me
thought
to
it was
say work
funny.
shed?
Oh no, Bruce remembers.
Yeah.
No, read his
Okay, good.
biography. He remembers a lot about these movies.
Yeah, because to me that seems like a thing that someone would be like, "What? Why do they want me to say work shed?" Of all things.
No, it's really impressive just because I've been watching a lot of the Smallville podcast where they don't remember a lot of it. Then you go look at any Bruce Campbell interview or the biographies he's written. He remembers everything.
Oh, that's great.
Well, I mean, at least I'm assuming everything. I wasn't there.
Yeah, I think the trauma of making these burned these memories into his head.
But it's cool because it seems like he's in touch with the fans a little bit.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you
Well,
because you mentioned, Burn Notice was the most successful thing, but this is all anybody wants to ask him about. Did he seem bitter about that? Because I've never been able to read him.
no,
Okay.
I don't think so. He's just a very blunt, honest guy. Like he seems content with where he is and the career he's had.
If I ever met him, I'll ask him about Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and not Evil Dead.
I always struggle with that. Like, if I meet somebody that like Bruce Campbell, do I want to ask him about something that I'm legitimately curious about, or do I want to ask him something I don't think he's heard 100 million times?
Right.
That could be a little bit of both.
Ask him
He's
about
also
Congo.
oh yeah, he's got a great story about Congo. He's like one of the best, least pretentious actors ever. There's a video recently. I don't remember who he did it for, but like we're gonna read you a quote and tell us what this is from, and he nailed most of them. And Cars 2 came up because I guess he has a bit part in Cars 2, and he's like, "See, those are the movies you want to get. That's where you get the money. That's where the real residuals are
No,
from."
Robert. He
He always
has
talks about the business of it.
Cars 2 has the worst opening. So that's where Bruce Campbell is. He plays a car spy, and he's killed at the beginning. And so they kill Bruce Campbell and replace him with Larry the Cable Guy. It is the
That's
biggest
just
downgrade.
incorrect.
I forgot that was him. I've seen that movie before, but I forgot that
No,
was Bruce
it's just
Campbell.
like we could have had a movie about a Bruce Campbell spy car, and we got Larry the Cable Guy.
That's
Oh, Cars 2 is one of the worst things I've ever had to sit through.
It's pretty terrible.
But no, I saw that interview. It's Variety, I think,
Yeah,
because they do a whole series on like, can you guess the quote? I love his Spider-Man talk because you can tell he doesn't know what he's talking about, which is fine. But he's just like rambling.
uh, we talked over it, but I think my
I would
favorite
simply not go towards that chair.
No, me neither. I think my favorite visual gag is when he's sitting in the chair and Linda's head falls in his lap. In his lap, I think
That's
that gives
pretty
me the biggest laugh out of the movie.
Oh, see, mine
Oh,
mine
I
is
don't
the
know.
subtle when he puts his hand in the bucket, and on top of the bucket is a farewell to arms.
It's great.
That's a good visual gag. There's a lot of great bits of slapstick in this movie, though. Like, I don't know if I can choose. This especially appeals to a lot of my comedy sensibilities as someone
too.
who like watched
I
a
love
lot of
physical
Looney
comedy.
Tunes and like Tom and Jerry
This
as a
is
kid.
legitimately impressive, and as somebody that doesn't know about filmmaking, I don't know how they did this in the 80s.
I'm not sure how
Yeah,
they did this effect, but it's really
I
cool.
think it's just a double pretending to be Bruce on the right, and it's actually Bruce just through a hole in the wall.
Yeah, but what about there?
It's
Well,
like a
this
split
is
screen
that's
effect.
just a split screen.
Oh.
But I could tell because in the previous shot, it's like that guy does not have Bruce Campbell's chin.
um. Well, and we'll get to it here in a minute, but I don't want to talk too much over it. Have you guys ever seen the inspiration for the big hand scene?
Not off the
No.
top of my head.
So one of the guys that's involved with the movie, I can't remember who now, made like a college film about the hamburger helper hand that goes bad and starts killing people, and that was their
That's great.
inspiration. I think
That's
Bruce
awesome.
Campbell actually played the hamburger hand.
That's awesome.
No, this again, his acting is so good. Like just tragic, funny, in pain. Like he's hitting all these notes at the same time.
He
It's incredible.
he managed
He's
to
good
hit
at
a level
playing.
of overacting that doesn't come off as bad. It comes off as great.
Yeah, it's not like Jeremy Irons in Dungeons and Dragons, like shit like that, where they're just
Like
hamming
this
it up.
right here is about to get absurd.
It's absurd and impressive.
Like that loud ass sound when his hand slaps.
It's so over dramatic. Give me back my hand.
And I know a lot. I've seen a lot of people say that, like, Ash just gets dumber over the movies. I've always had a different reading. It's by the time you get to Army of Darkness, you're just seeing all of the events of the first two catch up to him, and he's just kind of gone insane due to all the shit that he's been through.
And him being an asshole,
Also-
like it's understandable.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I doubt he was that smart of a guy to begin with.
No, but by Army, he's like a cartoonish idiot. But I think that
it's
is.
the brain damage.
I think you can track that character of like he's losing it over all 30 movies, and by the time you get to 3, and he's in, what is it, 1300 AD, he's just like, whatever, okay, fuck y'all.
He just gets a completely different personality by 3, though, is the other thing. Because
I mean, but wouldn't you if you went through all the shit? Because you got to remember, if you count the first 2 movies, those happen over the course of one day.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
true, but that's what I'm saying is I don't think it's so much he gets dumber. It's just like this experience just changes him, like his personality completely.
He also ages like 12 years over the course of a week. I mean, that would change anybody.
Yeah.
You have to give him a pep talk.
Well, he even gets gray hair at the end of this movie, so
That's true.
it tracks. What do you guys think of these characters?
Okay, so I have to say, I'm not. They're probably the weakest part of this movie for me.
I think the main girl's pretty good, and her boyfriend ?
No,
I
these
always
two are
forget he's
fine.
in
I
this.
mostly mean the redneck.
The
Couple.
rednecks.
Oh,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if
like the
you need
rednecks.
They're kind of funny, but they're also there to die, you know. But I do like Annie.
Because this is a movie where I think the first act is the strongest when it's just Ash in the house and you get all the weird set pieces. It kind of slows down once you start to introduce the other characters, and then the one guy, the redneck guy, is just there to elongate the story and complicate things. And it's probably the worst part of the movie for me.
This
is the best part of the movie.
I was gonna say, Robert, earlier you said your favorite piece of slapstick in the movie was the scene in the chair. This is probably mine.
Well, I was talking less about slapstick and more just like I said, like visual gag, like just as a joke. That's just a great quick joke, but this is masterful.
This is insane because that's not a stunt double.
Nope.
Yeah, and he does such a great job of playing not just Ash but an evil hand. Like they do feel like two separate entities, two separate performances.
Well, and you can find videos online of him actually doing the flip at like lectures and stuff.
Oh, really? I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, that front flip he does is amazing.
And he can actually drag himself with one hand. That's crazy.
It's just so good.
It's so silly.
It's also unironically one of the best effects in the movie because we're cutting back and forth from the blade and his hand, the close up on his hand so much that when we cut to a fake hand that he stabs into, like you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
It's actually a really seamless edit.
Hey, Robert, who's laughing now?
Also, one thing I want to mention earlier, like with scenes like this and when he's cutting up Linda's head, it feels like a payoff to the stuff the marketing for the first movie promises you, but doesn't actually deliver. You know what I'm talking about? Like all those production photos of him with the chainsaw, like, it's like that doesn't happen in the movie. You have to get to this one for that stuff.
I don't know those production photos actually.
Oh,
They
no,
sold
I will
really
send
hard
them.
on the chainsaw.
Oh yeah, I showed them to John.
I will send
It's
them.
funny too. It's funny too because those photos were taken like a few years after they made the movie, and he's noticeably older. But it's on like all like VHS tapes and stuff like that. There's a picture you've probably seen of Campbell like with an axe like on his shoulder. That's like one of the early Evil Dead VHS covers. Yeah, that photo's taken like a few years after they make that movie.
Okay. Yeah, because I always think that's it looks more like Evil Dead 2 Ash because it is years later, I guess. So it's not so much production photos as it is promotional material.
Yeah, more marketing stuff.
Yeah.
But this movie actually has a budget, so they're able to do all the stuff with the chainsaw that they couldn't do in the first one.
Farewell to
Arms. So good.
I mean, how can you not love this movie by that point?
I'll put them in the group chat so Robert can make sure that I've got the right ones in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But these.
Oh yeah, I've seen
those are the right ones.
Okay. Oh no, yeah, I've seen all of these before actually. I thought that they were just posters, like movie posters for the first one.
Yeah, well, and the girl in those, she's like the reference for the iconic poster of her hand coming out of the ground, or her body coming out of the ground. You know, so it is marketing stuff. Just this stuff didn't happen until a few years after they made the movie.
I see. Yeah.
And the scene's so great with the evil hand.
It's just a Tom and
Robert,
Jerry
you
cartoon.
just described the whole movie. The scene is so great.
Yeah, so great. You're gonna hear me say that a lot.
It's just a Tom and Jerry cartoon with blood.
Lots and lots of blood.
Lots and lots of blood.
And they give the evil hand so much personality too. It's a little scamp.
It flips him off. Why, you little?
And because at some point we're going to cover the show, I was so happy when they brought the hand back and what they did with it, because that's a perfect example of what I think that show does really well, where it's not pointless fan service or unnecessary. It's like, oh yeah, we never knew what happened to the hand after this movie. That is it comes back one more time at the end of this, but then it just disappears and we never know what happened to it. Like, yeah, that makes sense to bring back. Oh my god.
It does kind of get to that pointless fan servicey place by the second season, though, when they go back to the cabin for no reason.
No, those last 3 episodes in season 2, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my
god. It falls off a cliff, but I do really like the first half of that season.
But for me, it's never unwatchable. Like, I still think it's entertaining. I just don't know what's happening.
No, I mean, it's not unwatchable. It's just a clear decline from season 1.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god.
Hey, this scene is great.
I didn't know Noah was in this movie.
What?
Oh.
Why am I a
You-
deer? I don't even get that joke.
No, I think this movie is kind of one of the best, like, just descents in entire in utter chaos and madness. But it's not really trying to be; it's just trying to be goofy.
Yeah, the first time I ever see this movie, this is one of the big ones that really gets me into the horror genre when I'm a teenager. And going into it, I'm like, oh fuck, how scary is this gonna be? Because when I'm young, I'm very easily scared by movies. And it takes me a good 20 minutes watching this for it to kick in, like, oh, this is funny. And that's cool. It was so not what I was expecting. I think the first time I watched this movie, I think my first big laugh is when Headless Linda with the chainsaw comes through into the work shed. Like
That's
I think
Work
that was my
shed.
first big laugh.
What's great
I
about
was
that
like, oh,
moment,
this
though,
movie's awesome.
even though we already talked over it, but what's great about that moment is that it works as a laugh and a jump scare if you're not expecting it.
Yes. Which is why I also love the moment in the chair when her head falls in his lap. Like for him, it's horrifying, but to us, it's
Yeah.
funny.
No, this
this
is
is
really
kind of
just a
like
perfect balance of horror and comedy that a lot of movies struggle to really balance.
it's a
Mhm.
seamless blend, and it's also kind of the perfect like spooky haunted house ride movie or
Yes.
haunted house attraction movie where it's really fun and it's got that perfect atmosphere too.
This is a good jump scare too coming up.
Yeah.
No, Raimi's really good at jump scares, and they're never annoying. Like when I watch
Yeah.
something like The Conjuring, 3 jump scares in, and I'm annoyed.
Hmm.
Also, it's amazing, like Bruce Campbell getting beat up at. I forget where I read it, but apparently, in this scene, I think it's right here where he's pinned down and that guy's hitting him. He went too hard and like kind of accidentally knocked Campbell out for a minute.
Oh
Oh
no.
boy, it's
I'm sure
fine.
somebody
It's
will
for the
fact
realism.
check me. Like I said, it's been a minute since I've read about this. I used to buy a shotgun. She's fine.
I'm sure that's the worst thing that'll happen to her in this movie.
Of course.
It's like, okay, I know this looks bad. You're
No, I
just
know
missing
that
some
sounds bad.
conflict.
What the hell did you do to him?
So the cellar's one of those things that kind of became an iconic image in this franchise,
Mhm.
not just for this movie, but also the first one too.
Well, and it's really cool that in this one we hold off on it for so long.
Hmm. They build to it.
Sorry, build the what?
The cellar,
Oh yeah.
because
Uh,
obviously they use it in the remake as well.
yeah.
Mhm.
So this is where it gets a little tricky with the first movie because if you splice these together, what was Henrietta doing while Cheryl was down there?
Right.
Just sleeping.
Just chilling.
She she was waiting for someone to mention her.
He was waiting for that specific part of the tape to be played.
Yeah. That's the thing that summons her.
That's what's cool about the musical is it combines both. So Cheryl's never really in the or no, Cheryl is the bad guy from all the way through to the end of 2.
Oh, cool.
Uh,
kind of that hindsight, like we can smooth out the edges. Robert, I hope you're ready to do a commentary on that at some point. If we can find a like watchable copy.
So I think, John, you were talking about this earlier about how when the other characters meet Ash, the movie kind of slows down a bit, like a bit, not too much, but I always remember that being the case too, but I don't know, on my most recent watch, the movie doesn't really have any downtime. Like it moves by at a clip.
It's
And
never
again,
badly paced. The part where I get a little annoyed and not enough, it's not enough to ruin the movie or like make me give this any less than 5 stars, is when he throws the pages down in the basement. At that point, I'm like,
Yeah.
you're kind of stalling for time a little bit here.
No, I can see that too, but I always forget, like, even when these characters are first introduced with Ash, we immediately get the Henrietta stuff, which is insane.
yeah, again, that's Bruce Campbell's best scream in this. It's so good. Just my God, I buried her in the cellar. It's such a great reveal.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have this, but when she comes back in the show, she looks wrong. I don't know what it is. Just it looks bad. It looks off.
Well, the CGI is not great. I think it was still Ted Raimi,
Maybe.
but I don't
That would
remember.
make
Mostly,
sense
it's
because he's
mostly
in
the
the show.
design just doesn't look great.
I also love, like, he grabs him by grabbing onto his head. That's not how you lift somebody
good.
up.
I also love that this Deadite of all of them can like turn into different things.
Well, that's
She's
sometimes
the
the
most
lore. It's sometimes the lore and sometimes not. Where the idea is, if you're a deadite long enough, it'll eventually like just change your body and you'll look more like a demon or what its original form was. But that's only a thing we do sometimes.
It's the eye.
But when I'm talking about with her in the show, just the makeup or the CGI, something is off and it doesn't look good.
I'd have to look at it again because I don't even immediately remember what she looks like in that show.
Mm-hmm.
This part's really funny.
No, this movie is just like all chaos all the time.
Now, back to something you brought up way back at the start of this with that production logo. Was there a story there
Um,
you were gonna get into?
well, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard is, like you said, it was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, and I think that studio was only made for this movie, or like specifically for distributing this movie. I'm not
Weird.
entirely sure.
No,
Someone
there
Sounds
is
can
kinda
something
correct
cool.
me
there.
on
Like
that.
they had to make a straight production studio for this film
Mhm.
for some reason.
Because I think De Laurentiis was still involved with the third one, but they were also with Universal.
He is, yeah.
Okay.
And that logo isn't in front of Army of Darkness. So.
That's true. And then when they were making Army of Darkness, they didn't have access to footage from this movie, so they reshot some of it again. Well, no, that's not true.
Which
They
is,
did
I
use
was
some
gonna
of the footage.
say, the shot of the Oldsmobile falling
Yeah,
into
that's
the
the same.
outer
Okay,
portal
yeah,
is
I
the
retract
same,
that. So
yeah.
yeah, they reshoot some of it, but keep some of the same footage. It's a weird blend.
I think
The
they had to
should
reshoot. They had
the
to
reshot
reshoot the
footage in
recap.
3 is really distracting to me.
They had to reshoot the recap so they could establish the S-Mart stuff, I think.
That's true. And scenes like this are what I'm talking about, where I still see the whole movie as kind of a remake, because this is now we're doing the Cheryl bit where a lady's in the cellar pretending to be normal.
Well, yeah, but then at that
It's
point,
clearly
every
a
sequel
repeat
is
of
a
that.
remake because every sequel is just the first movie.
But
Most
this
sequels
is a
just
very this is a very special
Reestablishing
case.
it.
Okay, but then is Ghostbusters 2 a remake of Ghostbusters 1?
A lot of people say it is.
I mean, it
No,
kind of
that's-
is, but
I like that. That's the example you went for.
it's the one I can think of on the top of my head.
And also, this scene is a lot like
Dead by Dawn, Dead by Dawn.
Yeah. But yeah, I always forget about this guy just because this is like his only memorable scene is when he's this
The
dead.
only time this guy is relevant was in Evil Dead the game when people found out he was overpowered.
That's true.
Yeah, I just remember that he turns into a deadite and that he has green blood. That's all I remember about this character.
Hey, lady, you beat him up and threw him in the cellar. He doesn't owe you anything. I'm glad you mentioned the green blood though, because like stuff like the green blood and the black ooze was to potentially appease the censors of like, okay, maybe we'll get an R rating and not an NC-17 if we make some of the blood green. And the censors were still assholes when they were making this movie, so they said, "Fuck it, we're releasing this one unrated again."
Yeah, no, we were talking about that the other day because I would like to see more movies do weird shit like that. You know, green blood, black blood, etc. Because like I know what the purpose behind it, but it's creative. Man. It gives a little visual
Yeah, it looks
pop.
cool. You can get variety.
The world desperately needs more Sam Raimis.
It
That
is
is
strange that he's the only deadite with green blood. So I'm gonna take
that one
points
in
off.
Army of
Innocence.
Darkness has like pink blood.
Yeah.
Which one?
Well, for like one scene. Well, it's the Kool-Aid fountain.
Yeah, the when the blood sprays up and it's like pink.
I mean that's still blood. I never thought it looked that pink.
Well,
It's definitely not red.
I'd have to watch it again.
According to the censors, that's why that movie ends up with an R, which I call bullshit on.
Censors can kiss my ass.
They're the
Full of
worst.
shit.
Without
Anybody
that
like
scene, without that scene, there's no gore in that movie. Like at all.
Yeah, no, and they had to cut it. They had to cut it down from an NC-17 to get an R. Army of Darkness,
Which makes
like,
no
fuck
sense.
those people.
That's a PG-13 movie.
Yep.
No, who did Sam Raimi piss off?
Them for releasing these movies unrated. Which I think is making kind of a comeback because we're seeing how successful Terrifier 3 is.
And I didn't even realize that was unrated, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the only unrated movie I've seen in theaters then.
In a Violent Nature was also unrated, I think. But yeah, like
I guess this is a tangent, but so what's the deal with that? Like the MPAA just refused to give it a
cut
rating?
down those big kill scenes, and they said, "Nah, fuck you."
But
Which is funny because I feel like at least in A Violent Nature, it's kind of just a standard modern R-rated movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Terrifier at least makes sense because some of those kills go on.
Well, even to be honest, even with Terrifier, that's kind of surprising to me in 2024. Like we're still doing that with horror movies.
Mm-hmm. No,
of course,
I champion it. Like, just release these things unrated.
Aren't we desensitized to everything now? Like what?
Ratings make no sense anymore.
Yeah.
Well, no, and that's why I've championed like streaming because you get movies like Terrifier 3. You don't want to release a rated version. Dump it on home media. People will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it's doing so well in the theaters, but
not to get too soapboxy about it, but I don't understand why, as an adult, you can bring a 5-year-old to any R-rated movie, but if you're 17 or 16, you have to or you're 17, you have to prove what your age is to see that already. I think that's insane.
That's kind of
That's
bullshit.
weird, right?
That's very weird. No, the rating system is a joke. It has been since the beginning of its inception.
And it's just never been consistent.
It's just we're gonna get so much hate for this. It is just yet another tool for parents to avoid the responsibility of monitoring what their children are watching.
Yep.
That's just correct.
This is also a slight tangent, but not much is happening right now. But
Yeah,
what
this is the slowest part of the movie.
what was the first R-rated movie you guys saw in theaters?
Oh, theaters? That's a good question.
Texas Chainsaw
Yeah.
Massacre 03? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's because you also see the Dawn of the Dead remake, and that's
Which is the next year.
So probably Texas Chainsaw for you.
That or Freddy versus Jason. I don't remember which one came out first.
Okay, cool.
Oh, I think my first R-rated movie theatrically, I think, was Prisoners in 2013. I saw that with my sister.
Okay. I still have to see that.
Oh, that movie's great.
I've
I
heard
have
Hugh
seemingly
Jackman's
lost
amazing in
the
that.
Yeah, the first R-rated movie I see is Terminator 2, and that's when I'm like 10. I saw that on DVD.
I can't remember the first one I ever see, but I think the first one I see in theaters might be Kingsman.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And then earlier that year in 2013, though, I remember being really hyped for the Evil Dead remake, but I missed that theatrically. I don't know, because I was still a teenager, but I guess I just didn't have anyone to take me, or I didn't ask anybody. But I just remember thinking, this looks awesome, because I first start seeing this franchise probably around like 2012-ish, 2011. So I have seen these movies by the time that's coming out, and I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. I just didn't get to it theatrically. I saw it on Blu-ray at some point after.
Mhm. Oh my god, it's the hand.
And it's the hand. And I think that no, this is not the last time you see it. It does pop up one more time. That gag's so great. That's one of my favorite. Like, why is your hand so cold? Gags. It's like from a Scooby Doo
I'm
cartoon.
not holding your hand.
Baba Joe.
See, and they also do the tree scene again from the
Yes.
first one. Although
It just doesn't go as far.
it's not
Arguably,
as
I
sleazy.
prefer this version.
I think I prefer this version too. It's also just more in line with the tone of this movie.
Yes.
It has the greatest editing ending of all time.
No, it seems great. The one in the first movie is scarier, but it would be out of place here.
I'd argue it's out of place in that movie.
That is the one thing Raimi's like ever apologized for with these movies was, I think I went too far. And I don't know. I don't. It's one of those things where it's like, look, he's like a 20-something-year-old filmmaker trying to make the most shocking, terrifying movie ever. Like, I
think
understand.
that was his explanation, and that makes sense. So
I don't fundamentally disagree with having to apologize for something. You made a horror movie. I don't particularly like that scene. You shouldn't have to defend its existence.
I'm glad he's never cut it out. Like, I never asked for that. I don't need an edited version of
that. It also kind of shows the difference in motivation between that movie and this one, because I assume a lot of the stuff in the first movie was meant to shock.
Yes.
Where this is more meant to entertain.
Yeah.
Like, this is a more fun movie than the first one.
Well, even the first movie, which a lot of people find fun, that scene, I can understand still taking someone out where it's like, well, I don't want that subject matter to be treated fun, because then the counter argument to that is like, well, it's a horror movie. It's okay to have these people die in these gory, horrific ways, but
real
that's
quick,
off
just
limits.
While it's on the screen, we get the best foreshadowing, which is Ash on the pages of the book.
Yeah, that's great. But
anyway, please
I don't know.
continue.
It's a case-by-case basis. It's not saying that like you should never be allowed to tackle that subject matter in a movie. It's just like it's just to it's understandable to an audience member. It's like, well, this is too real and crosses a line, but this other stuff's fine because obviously it's fantasy. It'll never happen. You know what I mean? It just depends on the viewer.
That's why for
and
a
the intent.
casual viewer, especially if they're not super into horror, I always recommend starting here. And then if you want, go
Yeah,
back.
for sure.
Like a mutual friend of ours, Captain Logan, he's seen this movie. I don't know if I'd recommend the first one.
hmm
No.
Or the remake, which is going.
Definitely not the remake.
No. And I
We're
think the
watching
version-
Hellraiser tonight, and I don't know how that's
Yeah.
gonna go.
I mean, look, I've said this many times about our friend. He has seen Society. That changes anyone. Like he's
Well,
which now
and
you've seen.
he may have shown that to Jason. Hellraiser, not Society.
Society?
No, Hellraiser.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I
what
was
the
gonna
fuck?
say, like Robert just mentioned Society though.
No, sorry.
I got
but no,
really concerned.
he
for
may
a
have shown
second.
Jason Hellraiser, which surprised me. I didn't
Okay.
think I didn't know if Jason would be able to handle that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an intense movie.
That gets pretty intense for. Well, I guess he's a.
No, it's like the
teenager.
stoned friend over there. Yeah, man, that gets pretty intense.
I'm a little. I'm not stoned, but I'm a little sleepy.
Sleepy Noah.
This might be the commentary I fall asleep on.
No, we still got a whole other movie to go.
Uh-oh. Oh, that movie
Spaghetti.
feels like a dream too. So.
No, that movie feels like a fever dream.
Yeah.
I don't know, John. This scene's never bothered me just because I really like just seeing Ash go into the lion's den. I mean, go get the pages from Henrietta.
Do you
Like
think
it's
it's
such a
contrived?
good
though?
sequence.
This is super contrived. Okay,
I've seen people
so
do
this is
dumber things in horror movies.
this is a hard. This is one of those tight balances to walk, and I don't think the movie quite lands it. Nothing I'm about to say ruins this movie for me or disqualifies it from being a perfect film. Him not suddenly not believing that supernatural stuff happens is nonsensical and is just there to extend the plot. And I've never been a fan of the elongated chase sequence with an evil Ash. I don't know, it goes on too long.
Yeah, which
Well,
is
that-
funny
that
since they
also-
shot a lot more of it.
That also has another issue that I'll get into when we get there.
That Ash is like the only character who can unpossess himself.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into it now. Yeah.
More okay with because the franchise is consistently inconsistent with how the Deadites work.
Yeah.
For me, it just adds to the humor and the absurdity of it, especially when you get to Ash versus Evil Dead, where it's like Ash's humanity wins out and he snaps out of it. But for anyone else who's a Deadite, it's like, fuck you, I'm
Nah.
chopping you up. You don't get a chance.
Well, and they have a built-in excuse with him being the chosen one.
Yeah, that can be your explanation.
I can't think too much about the Deadite stuff or my head will explode. Because the truth of the matter is it's whatever Raimi wants it to be in that specific scene.
They could be trees.
Guys, I'm
Sometime.
trying to do a CinemaSins commentary of this movie, and you're ruining it
Oh no.
with your
Sob.
explanation.
So in that Evil Dead Regeneration game, that is a what if game where Ash doesn't go back in time.
Mhm.
And instead is found at the cabin with a bunch of bodies all hacked up in a bloody chainsaw. But you know how games will have like a rage mode or whatever? His is Evil Ash.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
So I have questions about this dagger. At what point is that a dagger and how does it work? That just looks like somebody took a spine and attached a small skull to it.
It's spooky.
It's a sharp spine.
Ugh. It also
It's
never
sharp
looks like
and
this
then it gets-
again.
No, it always changes appearance.
Yeah, because she's gonna get stabbed with that later, and just like, oof, that looked like it hurt.
Yeah, I think around this is when there's a deleted scene of Evil Ash eating a squirrel.
Oh, I thought that was at the beginning.
It may have been around here. Also, that shot of him outside was really cool, like the fog machine. And
I like how Robert's like, it was either at the beginning or at the end, somewhere
Yeah,
in between
this is
those
one
two
of
scenes.
Whichever scene has Evil Ash in it. But yeah, I like the use of the fog in this movie. I love the atmosphere of it.
Mhm.
I'll say, despite my complaints, he has one of the funniest deaths in the movie.
Oh, the redneck guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
No.
And
Guy's
and
not
a
having
nice
a good
little
Well,
day.
attention to continuity. When they come back to the cabin, his skeleton is still there.
that's true. Like I said, you're right. Like Raimi is the only one who knows how to do jump scares effectively because they're funny at the same
Yeah.
time.
When I think the
Well,
difference,
Flanagan does them all right.
Yeah, Flanagan's also good at jump scares.
I think the difference between something like this and like a modern horror movie that overuses jump scares is those movies are trying to be disturbing and actually like stick with you. This is just trying to be fun. Um, and like you just said, it's not just a scare; it's also a laugh.
Right, and there aren't any fake out jump scares with a cat or something. It's usually something actually scary that's jumping out.
Yeah, it's a haunted house movie.
She is apparently the strongest woman in the world. No, but kudos to them. This has to be a rough scene to shoot.
Mhm.
There's apparently a comic spin-off about Annie and what happens to her after this movie. I haven't read it.
Oh,
She's
weird.
dead.
Yeah, apparently it's
She
her
can
in
be back.
hell.
Oh,
Seems a
Okay.
little mean. Oh,
Yeah, that's kind of
this
mean.
the heroine of this movie. She ended up in hell.
of course. Speaking of comics, this is gonna be a time to bring up. John, you've read the Ash versus Freddy versus Jason comics, right?
Yes, it's been a while, but
You want any highlights you want to bring up, or how amazing
uh,
that second one was?
okay. So the first one opens with Lori and Will from the movie going to Crystal Lake, and Jason just immediately murders them. It's really funny. Jason becomes smart. Uh, and then in the second book, and this is how long it's been. It's probably like 15 years. In the second book, the coolest idea in that is they bring back all of the final girls and boys from both franchises. Uh, do you know how Freddy has a daughter in part 6? Uh, she's in
Yeah.
love with him for some reason,
She
and
goes evil.
they have a weird relationship that involves a lot of kissing, and yeah, it's not great.
Should have
It
brought that up
involves a lot of
during her.
kissing and yeah. Oh,
It's like,
uh,
yeah,
it's
that
a
was the
good
last one
thing.
they did.
It's a good thing I won't be there to review that.
Oh, we're gonna make you review it alone.
Oh no,
You will need
I'm
to
good.
legally purchase a copy. They're only like $150 on eBay.
Okay. At least that's cheaper than the new Seinfeld 4Ks.
Oh,
Yeah, nobody cares about Seinfeld.
I do.
That's what I said. Nobody cares about Seinfeld.
Oh. So yeah, the
no,
power of
no.
love. Can you
Yeah,
hear
This is
They wrote a song about
This is the more touching Exorcist scene than the actual Exorcist. Okay.
But no, it's set up and payoff. They set up the necklace, and
The
now
Netflix.
They set up Netflix in this movie.
They did.
And then Nash is like, "Whoa, my show's gonna be on there in the future."
Ah,
Yeah.
his yell's so great.
Well, they also set up the necklace in the first movie, so that's another thing that's repeated. This.
Yeah, I love that Bruce. I love that Bruce says constantly shits on that necklace. That it's the ugliest thing ever.
And I don't know if you guys noticed. The reason why it's like a shitty little magnifying glass is the original purpose was at the end of the first movie he was gonna like hold it up to the light and burn the book. He was gonna use the Netflix to burn the did I just say Netflix again?
He's gonna use the Netflix.
Use the Netflix.
Use the Netflix to burn the book.
That's like some heavy-handed symbolism there about streaming destroying physical media.
It was really ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But anyway, they couldn't get the shot to look right, so they said fuck it and just came up with the thing where he uses it to like hook the book and then he just throws it in the fire.
The best scene in the movie is about to happen.
Stop talking.
Yeah, a scene you're like, oh, I think it's contrived that he throws the pages down there. Like, what? It's Felicity app.
Okay, I can like one scene, but still acknowledge that how we get there is contrived.
Sounds like you hate this movie. Also, the hillbilly's death is probably my favorite kill in the movie when he just turns into a geyser of blood as he's getting dragged down there. It's so good.
This musical thing that's about to come up, perfect.
Robert, you mentioned Spaced earlier. I've seen the Cornetto trilogy before I watched these Evil Dead movies.
Oh, cool.
And when I watch these, I'm like, oh, Edgar Wright is a big Sam Raimi fan, isn't he?
Yes.
Just in the way that a lot of these like suit up scenes are edited.
This is the best superhero origin movie too.
That's true.
But real quick, I just because this popped into my head, are you guys ready for the onslaught of horror video game movies that we're apparently gonna get?
Oh God!
No. I didn't know that was.
They just announced an Outlast movie, and only in the horror could this be an upgrade. Paul W.S. Anderson is remaking House of the Dead.
They'd have to try really hard to fuck that one up.
And somehow that's an upgrade.
I mean, yeah. It's Paul
From
W.S. Anderson. It's Paul W.S. Anderson, but still, the original was UA Bull, so...
We live in the time when Paul W.S. Anderson is the upgrade. And I'm sure we'll get more. Because that Silent Hill movie is happening.
Can we bring back UA Bull to make one, please?
Oh, please, please.
Please.
No, I like his House of the Dead for just how shitty it is. But Alone in the Dark might be one of the worst things I've ever had to sit through. We gotta find time to do a blind commentary on that.
My God, it's Freddy's Glove.
Isn't the ending shot of Alone in the Dark a POV kind of thing that's like an Evil Dead shot?
Yes, from what I remember.
Because I've seen that before.
I love how claustrophobic and damp this cellar is. One thing I like about this movie compared to the next one and then the show is the chainsaw kind of becomes like his superhero weapon. Where it's kind of useless in this one. It's just a cool upgrade.
Yeah, he doesn't get to use it a lot. And then even in Army of Darkness, he never really gets to use it after the opening.
No, but like even by the opening, he got that like shot of him somehow magically connecting with the chainsaw.
I love it.
It's so good. But at that point, he's just a superhero. Spooky,
It's just
scary skeletons.
it's just tragic that we've never gotten to see a chainsaw battle between Ash and Leatherface.
The closest
I
we
really
get
wish they'd been
is
in the same Mortal Kombat game.
Texas Chainsaw 2, where there's a chainsaw fight between Leatherface and
That's true.
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper.
But if only that was Ash.
I also love how the pages get tossed to the cellar and then they're just all over the place. Like, I guess
Yeah.
Henrietta moved them, but like, why didn't she tear them up? Right.
Well,
They're
no, it's
also in
weirder than that
sludge
because
at the bottom, and they're somehow not wet.
it's even weirder because he finds like one or two that are separated, and then the rest are just in a neat pile somewhere. Like she hadn't finished spreading them out.
It's like, oh shit, he's coming down here.
Something that isn't appreciated enough in this movie is that actress's just ability to verbalize gobbledygook.
Mm-hmm.
Although
John,
she starts to wear thin on my patience here. Just read the fucking word.
Now, see, this is how you do a scary scene with stairs.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about any movie in particular.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
We
This
moved
is how
on.
you do it.
Are you talking about the Velma Halloween special? Is that what we're doing? Is that what you're talking about?
He's really obsessed with it. It's kind of creepy, honestly.
Yeah,
It's your favorite show.
I know that you made him do it just because you
superhero
love that
entrance.
show.
I didn't even want to do it. I just wanted to watch the new Salem's Lot movie, which, by the way, got 3,000 views. So fuck y'all. Nobody wanted to do it.
I'm happy for you. Yeah, he's even got like the full Army of Darkness look at this point.
Yeah.
I guess except
Great.
for the gray streaks.
Yeah, like he has chainsaw and he's just punching her.
I also always forget that he says "Let's go" in this movie too. So this really starts all of the catchphrases that you get later.
I mean,
on.
and that's the worst part of I think it's Rise where they bring that back and she's like, "Let's go." It's like,
yeah,
don't
I think
do
she
that.
says "come get some." It's like
don't.
You don't need
Only
that.
Bruce
That doesn't
Campbell can
fit.
say that.
That also doesn't fit the tone of that movie
It
at all.
doesn't.
No. Also, is it hyperbolic to say that I think we can credit this movie and Bruce Campbell for bringing the word groovy back in fashion?
Yeah,
I know some people would say Austin Powers, but when I think of that word, I think of Ash.
I also just think it depends on what you're into. If you're horror fans like us, it's this. But if you're more into like sci-fi or comedy or spy
It's
stuff,
also-
then it's Austin Powers.
It's also just part of my vocabulary, like unironically.
Yeah.
He made the word cool again.
No, like when he just looks at the camera and goes, "Groovy." That's like the best scene in the movie.
And he hated that line. He didn't want to do it. He was like, "Oh, Sam, no, come on, that's so bad."
I love this
Like
one
people
too.
hate that word.
That's what makes it funny,
Swallow
though.
this.
Swallow this.
It's so good. And
Like
then
he's saying such an out of fashion word in such a badass way. That's what makes it so funny.
great. And then the one he argued with Sam on Army of Darkness was the "Give me some sugar, baby." He was like, "Oh God, do I have to do this?"
Well, see, it's funny because as I watch it, I think the groovy in that one is more out of place. Like it's such a half-hearted, like groovy.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I like it.
But no, it's funny that he argued against all of them that became iconic.
Mm-hmm. And then the show, we get it in the pilot. We get it just enough. Like we never go to it too many times. Every time Ash says groovy, it's special.
Yeah.
If he did it in every episode, it would be annoying.
It's not Disney Star Wars.
To be fair, Lucas did that first.
What do you mean?
I have a bad feeling about this.
Oh, I just meant releasing stuff so often that it's not special.
Oh yeah, sure, totally.
No,
Oh
when
my
I think
God.
of Star Wars, those are movies where you can repeat lines ad nauseum, and it doesn't matter because they're more of like just talking to people. Where if Ash just went around saying groovy all the time, it'd be like, oh, that's weird. No, like this is really funny. Stop explaining. Just read from the book.
We need to stop these trees from attacking this miniature cabin.
This is what was the worst part about being friends with like nerds like us. We have to over explain everything instead of just doing it.
Yes. I only completed the first of the pages.
Oh gosh, just like start reciting it. Come on. Oh, this is why I thought Peepers was the giant creature all the time, because it is in that shot.
Oh my god.
I like the white streak, and I wish they'd kept that in Army of Darkness.
Yeah, that's like the one. They keep everything else. They keep the scars. They keep the shirt the way it's ripped up. But yeah, we do lose the white streak. Yeah, I just
It's
love
very
all
Reed Richards.
yeah,
Doctor
and
Strange.
then it's also kind of how he looks in the show.
Well, I mean, at that point, he's just old.
It's yeah.
That's just what his hair looks like. Yeah, it reminds me of Doctor Strange, and then of course Raimi went on to make a Doctor Strange movie.
I really
Oh,
hope the rumors are
no.
true that he's back for the third one.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
girl.
would love that.
No.
No.
I'm so sad
Is
the
that
first time I watched this when she died.
Yeah, it's a shocking moment. It's like almost too mean spirited for this movie, but she at least gets kind of a
He's
hero moment
killed by
here.
a
He saves the
decapitated
day.
hand with a dagger that looks like a spine. It's fine.
Like, it's very silly. I see what
Mm.
Robert's saying, though. And she still gets to save the day.
Yeah. That's very Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
That's another thing that I find randomly pops into my head. The little ghost going, "We've won! We've won!" I was really happy she made it into the game.
Me too.
I don't know if she's the
Oh
right
my God.
class, but
Yeah. Why isn't this a theme park attraction? Like, come on.
We need an Evil Dead themed haunted house.
We do.
I'd buy that for $1.
Where you just go through and like the
Get
hand
fake
can
blood
annoy
thrown
you.
at you.
Fake
This
blood,
is the other thing I like about
spraying.
Raimi is he's not afraid to have a bad ending.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is a downer.
Yeah, that's a better word for a downer ending.
No,
like,
but it's perfect.
25% of the reason I like Drag Me to Hell is just that ending.
Oh, that ending's great.
And Army of Darkness, of course, was supposed to have a bad ending too.
That's true. I like both endings in Army of
I
Darkness.
do too. I think I prefer the theatrical, but the original ending also just fits with these movies.
Austin has always said that the theatrical ending is a better ending to Army of Darkness. The Raimi's preferred ending is a better Evil Dead.
Yeah.
It's just always happening to Ash.
Yeah.
Somebody stop it. I think where I do lean toward preferring the theatrical ending is only because the bad ending is just, it is kind of a repeat of this gag.
Yeah, but you get one of Bruce Campbell's best deliveries. I slept too long.
Oh god.
So
I don't need the flashing lights.
No, I hate that. Quick spoilers for Venom 3 real quick. Because Robert, you've seen it. And this is gonna tie into Army of Darkness, but Austin sent me the post-credit scene of that guy coming out of the cave.
Oh god. Yeah.
All I could think of was the other ending to Army of Darkness. It's like they just ripped it off.
He comes out and says, "I slept too long."
Yeah.
I watched that complete without no context, so I didn't know what was happening. But that's all I could think of. Was just, they just ripped off the Army of Darkness ending. And this doesn't look great.
No, but I love it. And this is where we diverge from how Army of Darkness opens, because here they're like, he's a hero, yay! Where's in Army of Darkness? They make him a slave.
He's a slave. Yeah.
and try to kill him.
Hail, he who came from the sky to deliver us from the Deadites.
Deadites. And this thing comes back later in Army of Darkness.
That's true.
And we're about to get the director cameo.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. We could assume use the boomstick one more time.
There he is. That's Sam Raimi.
There's Sam.
Love you, Sam.
I haven't got to him yet, but he's coming up.
I will say the armor and period piece stuff is a lot better in Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
It's very cheap in this.
But I like
They
it.
filmed-
It's paid off. That's the exact pose in the book.
That's true.
They
No, that's a
filmed
great
this
ending.
They filmed this in someone's backyard too.
Yeah, fuck you, Terminator. This is how you do a time loop. Twist.
Well, folks, that was Evil Dead 2. That's a damn good piece of cinema.
The greatest horror movie ever made.
The greatest movie ever made. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
but would you disagree that it's the greatest horror movie ever made?
Oh. I don't collect action figures, but I want that.
This is the first NECA figure I ever buy. I get this like 10 years ago. But like, look at that face.
Ooh.
What? It's so good.
He's seen some shit.
He has.
I love this figure.
That's the same face
Alright.
he makes when his hair starts to gray
That's true.
in the movie.
And which I
Alright.
think was on this. It's just kind of faded, so you can't really tell. But yeah, this is wonderful. And it lost the stand. Oh well, sorry, Ash.
All right.
Oh no.
If you're watching this pre-recorded, that is the end of our Evil Dead commentary. Thank you so much for hanging out. We will see you guys next time.